the Bolweg.
How's it, everyone? You are listening to Art and History with the Bolweg, and today we're going to be looking at land or earth art as an extension of contemporary art. Now, the artist we're going to be looking at in particular is Robert Smithson, who in many ways can be seen as the founder or the person who made land art famous. Now, what Robert Smithson did that was quite revolutionary for the time was he took art outside of the gallery and placed it in a natural environment, exposed quite literally to the elements. Now, what this meant was that the artwork was subject to constant change and potential utter destruction based on the environment that the art existed in. It also meant that not everyone had an opportunity to see the artwork, and much of its existence had to be recorded through photographs, thus utterly challenging the idea as art as an artifact to be savored and protected over years to come. Added to this, land art can't necessarily be monetized. Even if you are bringing land art into a gallery space, you can't sell it. It is something that is a little bit more difficult to control. Now, if you want to look for an absolute pristine example of land art, you can go to none other than Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty. This is, other than being his most famous artwork, is a textbook example of what land art is. Spiral Jetty, which also had a short film made about the production of Spiral Jetty following the same name, Spiral Jetty, was made in 1970 using 2,665 tons of basalt rock and earth, which were trucked to the location on the edge of a salt lake. It is also occasionally covered by salt crystals and water. The artwork is quite large, being 4.5 meters wide by 457 meters long, stretching out into the lake. Now, other than the fact that this artwork is large and impressive and quite clearly made from the natural environment, it is also in a very interesting and purposeful location. It is a 2 hours drive out of Salt Lake City out into the desolate deserts of Utah. The only existence of a human presence around this artwork is the road that leads past it and a nearby heritage site of a railway station which has long been abandoned. So it is a very hard artwork to access, meaning that most people are only ever going to see it through photographs. On top of that, it is also on a salt lake. Now, this has some interesting qualities. For one, there is an algae in the lake that turns the water red. Additionally to that, when the water level of the lake drops, it leaves behind a thick layer of salt crystals covering all the rocks. This means that for an environment to make a piece of land art, this is going to be one of the most interesting places on the planet that Robert Smithson could have chosen for this, because it means that his artwork is under an exaggerated level of flux and change because of where the artwork physically is. Now, although this artwork is owned by the Dyer Art Foundation, it can't really be monetized. You can't necessarily sell this land. It's, well, on the edge of a salt lake and a desert, not particularly valuable. There's no close human habitation, and any attempt to preserve the artwork will in many ways destroy it, because you're building up a natural man-made environment around this artwork that is made interesting because it's made out of nature. So there's a very limited amount of control that anyone can have over this artwork. And although people made pilgrimage to find this artwork, in much the same way that someone might pilgrimage to a mountain or a holy site, it retains an element of that artifact, but it still cannot be owned and controlled like many other artworks that existed at this time period. Additionally to that, something that needs to be considered when looking at this artwork is the fact that Robert Smithson did not make it by himself. He had an entire construction team making it. This included 2 dozer trucks, a tractor, and a front loader. Now, what's interesting is that shows that Robert Smithson, like many other artists and art movements of the time, being a contemporary artist, is no longer the skilled artisan who's honed his ability over decades and hours of intense, laborious, fine work to make a piece of art, but he's rather just the motivator and contributor behind an idea that results in the production of the art, which is something that only really exists in contemporary art. Now, another thing that needs to be considered is when this art was made. Why land art, and why did land art become popular? And that is because in the 1970s, we had the establishment of several environmentalist organizations and a growth in our culture for the celebration of the preservation of the natural environment. 1970, we have the first Earth Day being celebrated in the United States and in years to come all over the world. In 1971, we have the establishment of Greenpeace in Canada. Now, all of these were in reaction to the fact that our industrialized culture can be quite devastating to the world we live in, or at least the natural world. And in many ways, you're seeing a reaction in our culture, a reaction to the fact that nature is beautiful and needs to be protected by our industrialized culture. Now, it is not this that motivated the production of land art, but it is rather the thoughts that motivated the existence of socio-political environmentalist groups that also motivated land art, because it is a celebration of the beauty of nature and a breaking away from industrial ways of life. This can be seen in stark contrast to modernity or modernism. Now, land art, earth art, being a postmodern movement, is breaking away from the strict control that exists in modern art. Those hardline architectures, those hardline particular methods of making art that could be so controlled and suited for only human needs that existed in the utopic visions of modern art. Land art is a complete breakaway of that, an acceptance of the natural and uncontrollable, more feminine environment that is an embracing of nature and natural beauty that does not exist in modern art. Another interesting thing that exists in land art in particular is the use of patterns that are regularly found naturally. For example, the spiral jetty can immediately be recognized as the Fibonacci sequence, which is a spiral pattern that naturally occurs in the natural environment. This spiral pattern reoccurs, and many other patterns that exist in nature and land art reoccurs according to through the art of several other artists. There are two reasons for this. On the one hand, land artists are in a natural environment and in making their abstract sculptures looking for inspiration, and the inspiration that they have access to is those patterns that exist in the natural environment. From a second point of influence, they are also celebrating the beauty that exists in the natural environment, and thus are, whether they consciously know this or not, recreating patterns commonly found in nature. This is, although by no means the first time humans have done this, and is a common thing that exists throughout pre-industrial civilizations. The example I have here of a Fibonacci spiral pattern was made by the Pictish culture in modern-day northern Scotland, and this was made about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. This is not the only time that land art and more ancient art share a common feature. Something that you can see quite easily is the link between large megalithic contemporary land art and prehistoric art, for example, these Nazca ruin lines. Now, both the Nazca ruins and Spiral Jetty were made to be seen from above. In the case of the Nazca ruins, they were to be seen by the creator gods of their environment. When Spiral Jetty's place, they are to be seen by the flying gods of aircraft, who in many ways also are the creators of natural space that humans live in today. Although personal opinion, the Nazca ruins are far more impressive than the itty bitty little Spiral Jetty. Now, in many ways, land art and prehistoric or ancient art have a lot of things in common. Of course, prehistoric and ancient artists would not have called their work land art, they would have just called it art, because they would have been using the materials they had at their disposal to make art. Being in a pre-industrial landscape, they would be using nature. In contemporary times, we have access to industrialized materials, but in the production of land art, it is in many ways a throwback to a simpler time when we didn't have these highly modern industrial techniques through which to make art, and it is rather a celebration of humans subtly manipulating the natural environment in order to exacerbate the beauty that exists within it. So I hope you enjoyed that video on land art. Please, if you've got questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, do the thing, and have an epic day.